All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Good afternoon, now that it is 12:02. I'm Margaret von Flatern. I am the COO of FBF Law, a local personal injury law firm here in Austin. And I'm also an Impact Austin board member and a proud member of the Impact Austin class of 2019. As I told some of our first folks who came on this afternoon, we are recording today's meeting. So the recording will be available on the Impact Austin website after we close today. And we are providing closed captioning, and there will be a transcript of the meeting. We'll be using chat to facilitate Q&A and have time set aside at the end of our meeting today to answer any questions that you all may have or anything that we don't cover through the content of our bite-sized learning session today. So welcome to our Impact Austin bite-sized learning session. All of your interest in Impact Austin is so very exciting, and we hope that we can provide you with more insight about Impact Austin and how we are investing and engaging in our community here in Central Texas. As I said, we'll have time at the end of our session for questions. Drop things in chat. And if we don't get to your question, if we run out of time, someone from Impact Austin, a volunteer or staff, will reach out to you at the after the meeting to make sure that all of your questions have been addressed. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar with Impact Austin, we are a women's collective giving organization with a diverse membership of approximately 400 women. Our mission is to cultivate and expand the knowledge, passion, and generosity of our membership to make a positive impact by developing strong relationships and leveraging the power of collective giving. Since 2003, we're about to come up on our 20-year anniversary. Since 2003, we have given almost $8 million, $7.87 million has been reinvested back into our Austin community and given to our nonprofit partners. And this is done through high impact grants in the categories of equity, education, health and well-being, and community. We're able to give these funds away and give these high impact grants with funds that are collected from our membership. So we collect yearly memberships from all of our members, gather all of that money together, and then give it away in large impactful grants to our nonprofit partners. Our members have varying levels of involvement, which we'll talk about more today. Karen and Michelle will give you insight into their membership experience, and we'll go more in depth. So without further ado, we have two of your applied materials colleagues on the line today. Karen Corder is an Impact Austin member, class of 2021. She's also the global leader for the HR shared services at Applied Materials. In addition to her involvement with Impact Austin, Karen is an advocate for women and inclusion in the workplace. And this is pretty exciting, I thought, during Karen's first time at Applied Materials, because she's on her second round. She was actually one of the founding members of Applied's Women's ERG, WPDN, the Women's Professional Development Network. So welcome, Karen, and congratulations on doing that amazing foundational work at Applied Materials. We also have Michelle Fike with us today. She joined the Impact Austin in December of 2020 and currently serves on our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee at AI. Michelle joined Applied Materials in January of 2020 and supports the service business as the Global Fulfillment Operations Senior Manager. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. So Karen, I'd love to start with you. How did you get introduced to Impact Austin and why did you decide to join?
Yes, so thank you so much, Margaret, for being here with us today. So my journey with Impact Austin started back in September of 2020 when, crazy times with COVID going on. I received an email through LinkedIn from Helen White. I believe Helen is here today. She is the lead for our advancement committee in Impact Austin. And she told me that Melissa Patel, who was a coworker that I had at Dell that I thought very highly of, recommended that she reach out to me. And Helen told me a little bit about Impact Austin and what we did in the community. And she invited me to attend one of the webinars that was coming up. And I attended the webinar. And I remember it was very impactful to me, to learn about collective giving. I have always been a person who likes to give back to the community. I've always volunteered. I've always, made donations. But the idea that we can donate and bring our money together and really give impactful grants that are really taking care of systemic issues that we have in our community, for me, that was incredible. So I remember in this meeting, we heard from Mimi Stiles from Measure. She was talking about the work that they were doing to provide data to help eliminate the social disparities caused by adultification bias. How Black young women were being treated differently than white young women. We didn't see the Black young women as vulnerable as the white women. And what they were doing is they were getting data to show that this was a reality. So that was really good because data everybody understands. And then we also heard from CASA, Laura Wolf from CASA, the court-appointed special advocate. And CASA is an organization that I have been a big fan of. My mother-in-law volunteered with CASA for many, many years. So that also, caught my attention, caught my heart. And then we also heard from LifeWorks, Susan McDowell, who was talking about their initiative to end youth homelessness here in the Central Texas area. After, I heard from these different organizations and the impact that the grants were making in our community, I think I signed up before the meeting was over. I was already on the Impact Austin site, and as I signed up, of course, heard from Christina Gorczynski. And Christina, I hope I said your name the right way, but just so inspirational, and I was sold. It caught my heart, and I not only signed up, but I also sent emails to all the women in my network. And I think that's how Michelle ended up learning about Impact Austin. So for me, it was one of those love at first sight. You had me at hello. I signed up right away. And I'll tell you, in the beginning, I wanted to be really, really involved, but we'll talk about that later. I'm going to let Michelle talk about how she got involved in Impact Austin and what she has been doing.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you so much for that, Karen. I think for a lot of us, it's love at first sight with Impact Austin, and your experience and being in a meeting and knowing right then and there you found your people in your organization is something that resonates with a lot of us. So Michelle, tell us about your journey with Impact Austin. What does your membership look like?
Sure. Thanks, Margaret. Karen's right. She's the one that in that outreach to her community of women, I was part of that. There was an upcoming event, which was part of the fall grant cycle that I attended. And I was pretty much hooked in the same way that Karen was right away. In that event of, I think that was November 2020, one of the community outreach partners was Black Mamas ATX. Which really spoke about their initiatives and getting the necessary healthcare for, the maternal journey, so to speak, right, during pregnancy, delivery, and post. And I was immediately moved. And very much like Karen, I have a longstanding history, really since I was a teenager, of being involved in my community. I started off volunteering at my community hospital when I was not even old enough to drive. So community has always been extremely important to me. But the idea of the collective giving and really seeing the impact, right, of coming together, women specifically coming together, really resonated with me. And so I joined within the coming weeks before the end of the 2020 calendar year. And, you know, when you join an organization, you want to learn as much as you can, which is exactly what I did. I jumped right into the spring grant review committee and wasn't exactly sure what I was signing up for at the time with the time needed over that 3-month period where I'll talk through the process in a moment, but it's really the pulse, the heart of the organization, right, on how ultimately, you know, grants get funded. And I didn't have a lot of experience with, you know, grants. I've never looked at one in my life, but Impact Austin has a really great training program, right, for anyone that's wanting to come in and be part of that process. So, you know, it covers many things from, you know, what you need to do and look through different lenses as you're reviewing the applications. From a DEIB perspective, right? Understanding that different organizations are different sizes, and whoever is writing that grant, right, may be something that they just do part-time, where maybe larger organizations have a full-time resource that writes their grants to support their nonprofit. So it was a big learning experience, and also being introduced to, hey, you know, as you're reviewing and doing this initial review of the grants, right, here are the things that you have to make sure that it actually qualifies, right? Just like everyone wants their money to go to something that is very impactful, right? Making sure that it's not something that is, you know, a sports organization or political or legislative activities, right? For a couple of examples, one of several. So when I joined the Spring Grant Committee, I was on the community grant, and there was 38 applications that were submitted for that grant. The funding for that was already predetermined. So one of the things that you're looking at as you go through the process is if, you know, the grant amount is say $80,000, right, and their initiative is $200,000, right? You're also looking at the financials of that organization to make sure that they have other ways that they're able to fund their initiative. So, you know, we started with the 38, we divided into 2 teams, and you really start to go through this process of taking your training and your different lenses on what is going to have the most impact, right? And it's hard. I never would have imagined the process of elimination would be so difficult, because it pulls at your heartstrings. There's so much great work that is being done in our community, and you want to be able to support all of them. But at the end of the day, you can't, right? So you have to understand, start asking, like, you know, does the application answer all the 5 whys financially, right? Do they have the other support if the grant isn't enough to fund their initiative? And then you continue to go through rounds, right? The process of painstaking process of elimination. But this is really where I learned a lot, right? Because you're working with other members who have varied backgrounds. They bring a lot of different perspectives themselves and how the questions they ask. And, you know, some work in nonprofits themselves, right? Some work in corporate, different types of corporations. You know, Margaret works in law. So there's a number of different angles on which you're narrowing this down, right? And the discussion that comes along with it. And it really helped me learn a lot going through the process. And certainly for anyone that is interested in joining Impact Austin is one of the recommendations I have to really get that pulse of the organization. And it's where the heart of the work really comes in, is going through that process. And then, you know, you get to a point where maybe you're down to 6 out of those 38. Now the teams are working together. You give presentations, right? You're summarizing everything as you go throughout the process. So if one of those is a finalist, right, the extended membership has that information. And then you get down to the final 3 and you get to do site visits. And I think this was really eye-opening, right? You're meeting with the executive director of the organization. You're getting to see their setup, their office space, warehouse space, depending on the type of organization. And right from there, you get to ask questions directly. So up until that process, you're having discussions internally with members. But this is where you really get to have the interaction with the nonprofit themselves. And when you finish the hour-and-a-half visit with each of the 3 finalists, then you have to make that final cut and decision and vote amongst the members on the committee to take that goes out to the entire membership of Impact Austin to vote. And the way that it works is, 80%, the top vote getter gets 80% of that grant, and the second place nonprofit gets 20%. But these, first, second, they're still very large, impactful grants, because most of the time they're, in the $20,000 range, even if you finish second in the voting perspective. So, I did that first grant review committee, kind of took the summer off, as most members do. It's not quite as active. And when fall rolled around, I didn't have the bandwidth to do another GRC, but I wanted to stay more engaged. And so where my passion lies in WPDN, I'm currently the chair, is really in the inclusion space. And so I took, my passion for that and things that I do at Applied Materials, right, and infused that into Impact Austin by joining the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. And in addition to that, I also joined the Learning Subcommittee, right, which we help facilitate and create some of the learning content throughout the year for Impact Austin members. So that's my involvement. It's been eye-opening and been really great to be engaged and learn.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I have had the pleasure of serving on several GRCs, grant review committees, and as somebody who has written checks to nonprofits for most of my adult life and volunteered with nonprofits, again, going back to, teenage years through present, the in-depth experience and knowledge and behind the scenes knowledge that you gain through the GRC experience that Impact Austin gives you access to is like nothing else that I have ever been able to experience. And it has created such a much deeper understanding of the needs of our community, and also much deeper relationships with nonprofits that I previously had relationships with, but through Impact Austin really got to be so much more familiar with them and their needs and the communities that they were serving. So I'm so glad that you took that on early in your membership. It's absolutely not something everyone has to do, but it really is the lifeblood and it is the heart that makes Impact Austin beat. So congratulations on your first GRC, and I'm glad that it was a wonderful opportunity for you. And so if you're not somebody who has the bandwidth to do a GRC, there's other ways to be involved, and there's other benefits of membership of Impact Austin. So Karen, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about networking and some of the more traditional ways that Impact Austin connects you to like-minded women in the community.
Yeah, so before I go there, I just want to say that I am so amazed by Michelle, because she has a young child, a job that is extremely demanding, and she still fit this in her, in her life. So all the power to you, Michelle. I'm a big fan. Congratulations. That is incredible. And I will tell you as well that one great thing about Impact Austin is that your level of involvement depends on where you are in your life. So when I joined, I had great intentions. I'll be honest with you. When I joined Impact Austin, I was like, I'm going to be in all these different committees and I'm going to get involved. And then I ended up getting a new job. I changed careers. I went from services into human resources, starting a brand new job completely out of my comfort zone. And I became one of those people that writes the check and trusts the process. And I know how great the process is, but I still get to vote and I still get to participate and I still get to be a part of this amazing community. So I don't want, amazing, Michelle, but I just want to let you all know that your level of involvement can be anything from writing a check and voting all the way to being part of the committees and really getting involved. And that could go up and down depending on where you are in your life. And I think that's one of the great things about Impact Austin. But in addition to participating, in the grant review committees, there's a lot of opportunities for you to get to know like-minded women, but from diverse backgrounds that otherwise you would not have a chance to meet. So I've met some incredible women through my, I'm class of 2021. I joined in 2020, but I'm class of 2021. But in my short time here, I have met some incredible women. You can participate, you can attend town hall meetings, you can do discovery days when you have, learning opportunities and you learn about philanthropy and what we can do in the community. There are zone events, there's opportunities to volunteer with these group of amazing women in our community. And it's just wonderful to see how many of us are so passionate about making a difference in our, where we live. And it is just, I'm probably preaching to the choir here to some of you, but I think it is an incredible organization. So highly recommend it.
Thank you, Karen. I love that so much. We're a group of women with a diversity of backgrounds, but connected through shared values and a commitment to community.
Yes.
So I love that. And it really does speak to who we are as an organization and what each woman identifying member of Impact Austin, why we're here, and why we have decided to be a part of this group. So I guess another question that I have, and maybe I could kick this over to you, Michelle, what have you learned about our community through Impact Austin that has moved you?
So I think the thing that surprised me the most, honestly, is the connection that I found between some of the organizations that we at Applied Materials have supported over the years. Are some of the same grant recipients that Impact Austin has also funded. There's an initiative that Applied had set forth years ago for Generation Girl, and one of those nonprofits is Con Mia Madre, right? That's part of that. And they're one of our recent grant recipients. And so I thought that might be a good time to just watch a short video that they shared when they were in the finalist stage.
The biggest need that we have identified at Con Mi Madre during this year was emotional support so that students can navigate the process of being in middle school, high school, and entering college. For first-generation students, that's particularly daunting because they don't have the know-how in the family of how to navigate that process. So it's already difficult. And then during this year, with the pandemic being so isolated, depression went up. We plan on using this grant to support our programs that have been proven to be successful for the past 30 years. And one of the things that we'll put more emphasis on this year is being very conscious about that mental health piece. The most important thing to consider first, from a demographic perspective, the Latinx population is the fastest growing population in Texas in general and in the country. So if we think about our growth as a society, if we think about having prepared professionals for our future, and our future depends on that, we have to invest in the Latinx population. If we're thinking about equity and undoing structures of inequality, we have to invest in education. We have to, and with that, we have to invest in mental health. We have to invest in dreams. And by investing in the population that we serve and in programs like ours, you're investing in generational change. Should we be so fortunate to receive this grant from Impact Austin, Con Mi Madre will be able to impact 600 mothers and daughters in Central Texas. And that's why your support is so significant. And think about it, you're not just impacting those 600 mothers and daughters, you're impacting the generations to come.
Love that. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing. We love Con Mi Madre. They're such a wonderful organization and Impact Austin community partner. Michelle, is there any other ties to the ERG that you have? Like, why this ERG and Impact Austin?
So, you know, I've been a member of our women's professional development group. It applied for a number of years. One of the components that we have is our community outreach, right? And it's part of what led us to this event today. Many initiatives that we do in that space are around girls, right? So this was a way to bring some visibility of other ways as women that we can be more impactful in our community. And we're always looking at ways to expand that. So that's how this event kind of grew and came together today. But we do support a number of, you know, girl initiatives throughout the community and have for many years, longstanding relationships.
That's awesome. Well, and thank you both for creating this space today and giving us an opportunity to spread the good word on Impact Austin. Karen, I'd like to hear from you on how does Impact Austin make you feel connected and special? What impact either you or the organization has had since you joined that's made you feel particularly good and has given you those warm fuzzies?
Yeah, so a warm fuzzy I've had since day one. I remember on that same meeting that I attended, Christina, she talked and she mentioned the African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And I think, you know, just this idea that we are this community of women that are going together and making an impact together is so very special. You know, like I said earlier, I've always wrote checks and donated. And yes, you know, like you donate money to an organization, you have to trust that they're going to use that money well, and I know they do. But when this collective giving together and making sure that we're choosing the impactful initiatives, the strategic issues in the community that will help so many, that it's just the return on investment is just incredible. And I love that about in Impact Austin. Another thing that caught my heart as I learned about Impact Austin was the girls giving grants. And I think Tracy just mentioned it here. You know, I am a mother of two daughters. I have two daughters. They were a little bit older by the time I got engaged. I'm now empty nester. I have a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old daughter and two sons older as well. But the idea that Impact Austin helps, you know, gives an opportunity for young women to get involved and learn about philanthropy and the importance of being engaged in the community and giving back. I think to me that was very special as well. I actually followed up after I had my meeting with Christina. I introduced her to some of my other friends that had girls from 8th to 12th grade, yes, 8th to 12th grade, so that their daughters could get engaged. And to me also that was extremely special to see. So.
G3 is such an amazing organization. Talk about female empowerment. It's giving young women a voice in their philanthropic philanthropic future at such a young age. And so G3 was actually born from one of our founders, Rebecca Power's daughters, who saw her mother start Impact Austin and gather her peers and contemporaries around to make this change and impact on their community. And their daughters got together and said, we want to do that too. We want to make change in our community. We want to invest in the place where we live. And so not long after Impact Austin was founded, G3 was also founded. And those young women who are part of G3 go through the same process and due diligence in their grant making that we older ladies go through the GRCs. And it's just such an amazing space for young women to gather together and have a voice, to learn about their community, and the leadership skills that they gain and the independence that they gain through that process is really fantastic. And if you are interested in mentoring, as mentoring is a passion of yours, you do not have to be an Impact Austin member to mentor our G3 members. So that's also another great way that folks can get involved in Impact Austin and have an impact on our membership and our community. So at this point, we have some space for additional questions. If anybody has some that they want to throw up in chat, or if anybody wants to, I think we can unmute ourselves and just ask a question of our panel. We also have a ton of Impact Austin volunteers on the call today. We have folks from our marketing team, our advancement team, as well as Impact Austin staff. So if you've got a question, we probably have an answer for you.
Anybody?
I have a question.
Yeah.
My name's Camilla Lavario. I work at Applied Materials. I know
Camilla.
Karen and Michelle pretty well. And could you just give a quick overview about what a membership or joining Impact Austin means? Like, what is your commitment there? Are there monthly meetings, quarterly meetings? What does that look like, participating in this organization? Thank you.
Sure. So I will handle the participation part, and I will let Nicole handle the money part. But membership to Impact Austin is an annual membership. And as Karen said before, you can be as involved as you want to be. We have various, Impact Austin is a volunteer-driven organization. We have 2 full-time staff members, and the rest of all the good work that we do, whether it's producing town hall, which is when we give away our fall grants, discovery days, which is learning intensives that we do at the beginning of the year, our annual meeting, which is when we give away our spring grants. All of that production is done through the great work of Impact Austin volunteers. We have a marketing committee, we have membership committees, we have advancement committees, we have the people committee. So there's lots of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging committee. There's so many opportunities to volunteer, to help move the machine that is Impact Austin forward. In addition to the grant review committees, which Michelle and I have already talked about. But all of that is 100% volunteer. We have many members who pay their annual dues for the sole purpose of, as Karen said, voting on who gets the awards in the 2 grant cycles, spring and fall, that our grant review committees have done all the hard work of narrowing down all of our applicants too. So you can, Impact Austin can be a part-time job for you. And for many of our volunteers, it is. Or it can just be a place where you are sending your annual membership dues and trusting the process and trusting the smart, other capable women in the organization to help direct those funds to really deserving programs and nonprofits in our community.
Thank you for that.
Camilla? Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's helpful for me to add just a little bit, I know that Margaret mentioned about our annual dues. And so our annual membership dues, as she alluded, is $1,250 a year. 1,000 of that dollars is allocated towards our grant pools that through the GRC process that Michelle was talking about. So those go out to high impact grants. And the $250 is held to help with Impact Austin operations, our programming like events today, the software that's needed that we use during the grant review process, and all the other things that we're using as the 2 staff people to help organize all these amazing volunteers that you're meeting online today. We also have a monthly payment option. If that's something that works better for you, it would be $108 a month. And it's just something that's charged on the same day every month. And if financial burden, if this is a financial barrier is an issue, we don't want that to be a barrier, excuse me. So we also have, please reach out to us and we can make sure that there's an opportunity for you to join, because our collective is only as strong as all the voices and we want to represent the whole Central Texas community. So I hope that answers that part of the question.
It does. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the great question.
Any other questions?
There are about, thank you for your question, Danielle. There are about 400 members of Impact Austin. That fluctuates depending on when membership renewals happen and things, but our membership is around 400 women. Just monitoring chat for another minute. Well, while we see if there's any other questions, I just wanted to, in-person events. We have our annual meeting coming up on June the 6th is one in-person event. So our 2 big in-person events every year are annual meeting, which is held in June. It will be in person this year. We're all gathering together. This is our first time in 3 years. I think our last 2 annual meetings have been virtual, so we're all very excited to get together. So that happens in June. Very excited. Our other big annual meeting is our town hall, and that's where our fall grants are awarded. So those are kind of our 2 big membership events. Discovery Days happens at the beginning of the calendar year in January, February timeframe. That is our learning intensive. So that has become a virtual event. It used to be an in-person day-long kind of seminar when folks from the community would come in and update membership on issues that our community is facing. We have found that shifting that content to virtual has had such an amazing impact on the content that we can create. We can get a much more diverse group of panelists together. We can have so many more voices in the room and just really produce a more richer content for our membership. And you don't have to be a member of Impact Austin to go to any of that. Guests are welcome at Town Hall, annual meeting, and Discovery Days. And in fact, we welcome guests to come to all of those. And then we have monthly, what we call zone events, which are more social, where different Impact Austin members will gather other members in their community and they get together and socialize. It could be as simple as going to Brentwood Social House and having a coffee or a wine with your fellow members, or we just did a social at the Wildflower Center. A group of us were fortunate enough to be able to gather on a beautiful Friday afternoon and take a tour of the Wildflower Center and have lunch together and just really congregate and enjoy each other's company, and also learn a little bit more about the Wildflower Center, which is such a wonderful space in our community.
Great.
Go
Sorry.
ahead,
No,
Karen.
no,
Yeah.
I thought you were done. Keep going.
Oh no, go.
No,
Interject
I'm
away.
going to ask a question. You said our annual meeting is coming up June
Yes.
6th, right? That's what I'm
Yes.
seeing here. So by when, if people want to be part of this upcoming election for who
Yes.
wins the grants, by when do they have to join? If you know, if they want to be a part of this.
Yeah. May 15th. So
Okay.
anyone who joins Impact Austin by May 15th will be able to vote in this round of grant making. We'll be awarding we'll be awarding 4 grants in 2 areas, community and education. And even if you're not a member, again, the annual meeting is open to guests. I signed up as a member at an annual meeting. As Karen said, you go farther together. There's something that happens in the room at an annual meeting when you have our community partners on stage talking about these passion projects they have and the impact they're going to have in the community that they love so much, and seeing all of these women gathered who are supporting these initiatives. And it gives me goosebumps to talk about, because it is very, very moving to see philanthropy in action like that. And so I highly recommend, if anyone, if you want to join, if you are moved today by the voices that you've heard and the stories that we've conveyed, if you join by May 15th, you're a voting member of Impact Austin, and you will have a voice and a vote at the annual meeting. If you're not ready, I 100% reach out to any one of us and we will give you more information. I'm happy to have conversations with anyone one-on-one who has additional questions, but also come to the annual meeting. It is such a wonderful space to, meet other women who want to support our community, to hear from our community partners. It's a really, really wonderful, very fun, very moving experience to participate in.
Yep, highly recommended.
Margaret, and then just to tie into that, one of the questions I see was, what makes Impact Austin unique? I think you really summarized that really well, right? But to add to that, I think you have such visibility into all of the great work that you wouldn't otherwise, that's being done in our community. But you're just so moved when you actually get to see it in action. Yeah,
100%. And if you can reach out to any one of us. We also have membership at impactaustin.org is an email address that our membership chair will respond to. So there's lots of ways to get back in touch with us or Impact Austin if this is a conversation that you want to continue having. Well, I want to thank everybody. We've run up against our 45-minute time, and I want to be respectful. At Impact Austin, we start on time and we end on time. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you again to Karen and Michelle for creating space for us so that we can talk about this organization that we're so passionate about. I hope you all learned a little something today, and if there's anything we can do to help you along in your Impact Austin journey, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you,
Margaret.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.